Good afternoon. Welcome to the Dewar Arena for our 20th Athletics Hall of Fame induction ceremony. A very special class of individuals that we will be meeting today. Incredible people, and I hope that you enjoy the stories that they have for you that they'll be able to share with you. My name is Jeff Hazard. I'm the Assistant Director of Athletics and the Sports Information Director here, and I get to proudly serve as the Chair of the Hall of Fame Committee. And it's quite a group of individuals who, it's not easy to choose these classes every year. There are a lot of great athletes from our past and not so long ago, back into the 2000s and such, that we have to decide who will go on that wall. So it's not an easy task. So as you meet some of these Hall of Famers today and listen to their stories, you'll kind of get a sense of who they are and why they are Hall of Famers. So at this time, we're going to begin our program. If we could have everybody stand as we process our class in, along with our president. College president, Dr. Morris, is being escorted by wrestling student athlete James Bethel. Our next inductee, wrestling, Dustin Winn, being escorted by softball player Brooke Corbett. Next we have Becky Ryan Kerr, and she's being escorted by men's lacrosse athlete Matt Trudeau. Our next inductee, Dr. Steve Perry, being escorted by women's basketball athlete Teresa Enkin. Our next inductee, Sanada Bailey, being escorted by baseball athlete Dakota Sitar. Our next inductee, Ralph Perez, being escorted by women's basketball athlete Alexa Amelberg. Our next inductee is Mr. Steve Wolcott, and he is being escorted by softball athlete Caroline Koch. And our final inductee this year is Mr. Ed Ryder, and he is being escorted by swimmer Julia Llewellyn. Our 2018 Hall of Fame class. At this time, we're going to begin our formal program. I'd like to introduce the Director of Athletics, Tracy Ranieri, who we all know. A lot of the things that we do in athletics, everything we do is because of her and her vision and what she means to the student athletes at this institution, what she means to the college, not just the student athletes. She cares about every student on this campus. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our Director of Athletics, Tracy Ranieri.
Oh, good afternoon. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Welcome to our 20th anniversary of the Athletic Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame exemplifies the greatest athletic triumphs in our college's history. And it also allows us to celebrate the leadership of men and women of vision and postgraduate success. Today, we'll enshrine our highest achievers into the Hall of Fame and celebrate the Red Dragon pride and traditions we hold so dear at Oneonta. You might not be aware, but SUNY Oneonta, being established in 1889, it was recorded in that very first spring that students organized an athletic association for baseball. 21 varsity teams grew from there, and we've been a proud part of the college's narrative for the last 129 years. Today, we honor and recognize a class of self-starting individuals who personify the greatness that college athletics represents. And before we get started, there are some incredible Hall of Famers in our audience today. We're really pleased that you would be here to initiate our rookie class of the year 2018. And so I'd like to introduce those folks. And if you would just stand and hold your applause until I have all of the Hall of Famers that were in the last 20 years inducted, it would be very appreciated. From the 1972 men's soccer team, Mir Shmuel. From the class of 2000, Max, are you in here? Go ahead and stand up. Oh, you are standing up. That's a really old joke between Max and I. Okay, from the class of 2000, Jackie Dalton and Garth Stam. From the class of 2001, Keith Benjamin and Michael Pasintalik. From the class of 2003, Don Flewelling. From the class of 2006, Ed Leone. From the class of 2010, Jim Baker and Dick Burr. From the class of 2011, Jane Grasdorf and Corky Lynch. And David Ranieri. From the class of 2013, David Bailey. And Rick Yandoli. From the class of 2014, Philip Megley. And from the class of 2015, Tricia Jager Burgeon. Please put your hands together. Congratulations. Thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for staying in touch with us. Thank you for connecting us with our current students in all the great things that you're doing. It continues to make Oneonta great. An event like this doesn't happen without an incredibly dedicated group of professional staff, faculty, and friends of athletics. The Hall of Fame committee is one such group of individuals who spend hours upon hours of time researching and uncovering both the obvious and the not so obvious statistics and characteristics of the best of the best. I want to thank them for their year-round dedication and commitment to identifying our best for a moment such like this. Would the Hall of Fame committee members please stand? Please put your hands together for our Hall of Fame committee. I think I'm noticing that I might have missed a couple Hall of Famers. Liz McGrail, could you please stand up for us? You are unforgettable. Did I miss anybody else of our Hall of Famers that snuck in? Is George here? Is George here? George, awesome. Thanks for sneaking in the back. I'd also like to thank Ryan Hooper, our Associate Athletic Director, and Jeff Hazard, our Assistant Athletic Director and Sports Information Director, for really helping to put the details of this event together. It just can't be done without them. I'd also like to thank our coaches and our athletic training staff, because every day they go at it, not only to find great players and great representatives of Oneonta, but to care for the current athletes that are in this room. And I also want to thank our student athletes for being here today to recognize that our past is as important as our present, and you are certainly a very bright future for us. There's one more person to thank, and that's Dr. Morris. Welcome to our family. We are so delighted to have Dr. Morris here for her very first induction ceremony. She only came to campus last month, and we're just so thrilled for what she's doing already. As a former college athlete herself, we know she understands what it takes to be on this stage today. Thank you for celebrating with us today. It's my great pleasure to introduce our president, Dr. Morris.
Thank you. What a glorious day, isn't it? It's beautiful outside. We bring this weather just for all of you today in this celebration. The value of athletics in schools is significant and cannot be overlooked. It has a profound impact on individuals, the school as a whole, as well as the community. Athletics is powerful and transcendent. It can bridge gaps, bring people with relatively nothing in common together, and gives many participants unbelievable, life-altering opportunities. I believe strongly in the mind-body connection and the benefits of being a scholar athlete. Those being inducted today exemplify and amplify the SUNY Oneonta success story. Your contributions while student athletes here are remarkable, but your contributions to your community and society after graduation are the true examples of success and your capability to pay it forward. We are proud of you and your accomplishments here and far. Thank you for representing our school and shining such a positive light. Congratulations.
There's a program at your seat that includes a lot of the details of our 2018 inductees. And as Dr. Morris said, they have traveled far and wide since their time at Oneonta, and I really can't wait for you to hear their stories. So without further ado, I'd like to begin the ceremony by introducing Jeff Hazard, the chair of the Hall of Fame committee. Jeff is the brains behind this event and was actually at the very first Hall of Fame induction. His passion for preserving our history is relentless, and his attentiveness to the stats is second to none. He's one of the finest sports information directors in Division III and was awarded the Irving T. Marsh Award, equivalent to the Sports Information Director of the Year Award. I'm very proud to introduce Jeff Hazard, our Master of Ceremonies.
There we go. Thank you, Tracy. Certainly it's game time now, right? It's game time. That's appropriate to be able to say that. But again, just welcome again. It's great to have the student athletes here again, just to listen to some of the stories. And as we had our Hall of Fame brunch a little earlier here, one of the themes that we really kind of wanted to hit on is the value of Oneonta and how it influenced everyone that is on this stage. I mean, you might not understand it now, but when you graduate from here, Oneonta is value. And when people hear Oneonta, they know that there's value where you are coming from. So there are some incredible examples of that here today, and we're going to try and get out of our inductees, you know, what does that value mean to them, and what does it mean as they have pursued their professional lives. So I'm going to begin. You don't want to listen to me. You want to hear some of our inductees. Our first inductee from our wrestling program, he was an All-American, finished third his senior year at his weight class to earn All-America, multi-NCAA qualifier, ECWC champion, All-State. I mean, the accolades are just amazing, but he has gone on to do some other things with his professional life that have just been equivalent to that. So it gives me great honor. Please welcome to our Hall of Fame, Dustin Winn.
Here.
Certainly quite an honor for yourself. I mean, did you ever think that you'd be getting a phone call saying that you were going to be into our Hall of Fame?
You know, I was taken by surprise a couple months back when I got the call from Tracy. It was actually a message on my work number, and I suspected that might be what it was for at that time, but it was a nice surprise.
So now your time here as a wrestler, can we just talk a little bit about that? Now, when you were coming out of high school, you know, we heard earlier that you weren't really sure that you were going to come here at all and even be a wrestler. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I had a fairly successful high school wrestling career, and didn't really have plans for college or a plan at all. My brother Greg was wrestling here. He's 2 years older than I am, so him and the coaches kind of put a full court press on to try to get me to come to Oneonta, and I didn't really have a plan. And my girlfriend at the time in high school, now my wife Kristen, she committed to going to Oneonta, so it seemed like a natural fit. But you know, I was not really interested in wrestling. I'd kind of put a lot into it in high school and didn't really see myself continuing that. But you know, somehow, you know, I talked to Sosa, and he convinced me to come here, and I'm glad he did.
Now, certainly wrestling we know is a pretty arduous activity. I mean, you have to prepare. You're always controlling your weight and trying to get ready for your next competition. Can you talk a little bit about some of the training and some of the commitment that it does take to be a wrestler? Yeah,
it's a year-round commitment, you know, year after year, and you know, there are a lot of people that get started in it late and find success, but you know, really a lot of, you know, I started wrestling at 5 years old and continued all the way through year-round, and you know, cutting weight, everyone has heard a little bit about that, but you really can't appreciate it until you've done that stuff. You got to sit in class all day and you know, still make weight for the weekend, and it is really pretty tough.
So now so your academic career, certainly you were on the 3-2 program. You finished your degree at Rensselaer, and you got a degree in engineering. Can you talk about some of the academic you know, stuff that you did go through in order, you know, that same kind of commitment with the wrestling that you put towards your studies?
Yeah, again, I didn't really have a plan leaving high school. Thought I might like to do something with engineering. So, you know, Sosa got me in touch with the physics department chair at the time, Dr. French, and he said, well, you don't really have a strong math and science background coming out of high school, but, you know, we'll give you a shot. So he allowed me to join the 3-2 engineering program as a physics major. And, you know, I really kind of fell in love with it. I liked the problem solving and really enjoyed the classes. And, you know, that particular program here, I think is, you know, one of a kind. It was at the time, was a very small group of people. So there was, you know, like 10 of us in this program. A lot of our classes were 10 people or less. You know, one of them, in advanced electric circuits course, it was myself and one other wrestler, Kyle Hopfleisch. We were the only people in the class. So there was a few occasions that we had to cancel class for the professor because we weren't going to be there because of a wrestling event.
So now you own your own construction company now. So why don't you talk a little bit about how maybe some of the things that you learned throughout wrestling and being here at Oneonta kind of got you to where you are now?
Yeah. So after I left Oneonta, I went to RPI for civil engineering and got a bachelor's and master's from RPI. Went to work as an engineer in the office for a little while, 5 years, and obtained my professional engineer's license. And the office atmosphere wasn't really my personality. I like to be outside, and really enjoyed construction and, you know, a lot of the aspects that go along with that. And I still use the engineering degree, but you know, I had an opportunity to partner up with a couple guys that I'd worked with in the past to start a construction company, and we're going into our 6th year.
How important being a part of a team and doing all the things that you needed to do help you now?
So the work that we do, we'll go out and build a bridge with 3, 4 people, and that really is a team atmosphere similar to, similar to a wrestling team. You're up against a deadline or something, and you got to pull a group of people together and get through it and work through adversity, whether it's weather, deadline, somebody calls in sick, and you got to pick up the slack. But being a captain here on the wrestling team really helped me develop leadership skills to be able to deal with different personalities and try to get the most out of our team. And I think, at Oneonta, I really was able to develop those skills.
So do you feel that that's probably where where the value came from, is actually learning those skills that you can now transfer to what you're doing?
Yeah, and I think a lot of those skills, are something you're born with, but I think, they're maybe honed in here, with direction from Coach Sosa and Ryder and, my brother. They set a really good example. And
so is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
I'd obviously like to thank my family. I don't think, when we spoke earlier, they rarely missed an event, whether it meant traveling 3, 4 hours on a weeknight. My wife, parents, in-laws, everybody, seemed to come, my grandparents. So I'd like to thank my family. Coach Ryder, I know we put him through his paces. My senior year was his rookie year as a head coach, so we gave him a hard time. And Coach Sosa, all the fans here, and just to thank the whole Oneonta community. It's a great place.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next inductee, a member of our field hockey program for 4 years, played during the mid-'80s when we had a very successful run in field hockey, one of the many successful runs we've had in field hockey, where the team accumulated 56 wins, went to an NCAA tournament, won an ECAC title, and she was one of the cogs in the wheel. I mean, she still to this day, 30 years later, is the second leading scorer all time, which is just amazing when you think about all the, the number of games that you get to play now. You play more, there's the ability to put up more numbers and stats, but she was one of the greatest players we've ever had here, and it's going to be incredible to be able to celebrate her and listen to her story. All conference, that kind of stuff. But it gives me great pleasure to welcome to our Athletic Hall of Fame, Becky Ryan Kern. Well, welcome back.
I like what you've done with the place.
Why don't we start there? What kind of, back in your, you mentioned during brunch that you just showed up here on campus, and tell us a little bit about that and that experience.
Yeah, well, back in 1983, we didn't have the recruiting process that we have today, which I'm sure a lot of your student athletes remember and probably want to forget because of the pressure that it creates in high school. But I was recruited to play at Providence College in Rhode Island to play field hockey, and went to orientation there and scheduled classes in August. It was about mid-August, and found out when we got on campus that there wasn't housing available for a certain number of freshmen. So my mother and father had called the coach up at Oneonta because I had applied on that state school application where you check 3 schools that you might want to go to in state schools, and Oneonta was one of them. And I showed up on campus for the first day, having never been here before. And I played as the only rookie on that varsity team. There was actually a JV team at the time as well. and fell in love with my teammates. That was the year we went to the NCAAs, so we had tremendous success. I became a big fish in a small pond, as they say, and yeah, loved every minute of playing here, and wouldn't have changed a thing.
So so as you've gone through your, now what you're doing now, you're a consultant working in the professional relations, public relations profession. What do you think, what kind of lessons do you think transferred from when you were a student athlete?
So I was a speech communications major undergraduate. I took a lot of business classes, psychology classes, and obviously communications classes. I went on to go to school at Boston University and got my master's degree. And as anyone who knows me knows that I like to talk a lot. And I like to hear stories and I like to tell stories. And I think being part of a team is a great intimate way to get to know people really well, as you all know, especially when you're traveling and on the road and in a hotel with 3 other teammates in one hotel room. You get to know people pretty well. And I think that that real interpersonal skill that you develop as being part of a team can transfer into all different things in your life, whether it's work in a work environment or even a family environment, and the dynamics that go with that. I think really all started really here, because of the amount of time that you spend together on a team and playing. And I've worked in and out of a number of different both PR agencies in New York, in Manhattan, and then also have been consulting for a number of years. I own my own business now. I do a lot of media training of CEOs and doctors. I work predominantly in the healthcare industry, and I help people talk about things. So that's really what I do in a very simple form.
So when I was reading through your personal reflection, and you just said, just going back and thinking about that time here at Oneonta, and it just brought back so many memories. Can you maybe point to maybe a situation or a memory that you think just is so, poignant for you and your experience here at Oneonta?
Well, thank God I had a scrapbook, because it was been 31 years, so it was hard to remember all of the games. And I think what Tracy was alluding to earlier, we didn't really have stats back then. It's very different now. Having two of our daughters played college lacrosse, and everything is very stat driven. So it's right there in front of you. It's on the websites. Your coaches know everything it feels like very stat driven, and we didn't really have that. So I had to go back through my scrapbook to remember, specific games, and it's a little blurry, Like I remember playing Hartwick. I remember playing painting the wall. I don't know if people still do that, but we used to paint the wall, and it was one of those the race to which team could get to the wall first the night before the big game. So those kind of off the field memories are really what kind of stand out, more so than specific game situations. I love to score goals. I was very fortunate that my roommate, who I lived with for 3 years, is also in the Hall of Fame, Sue Murray, and she actually has the #1 goal record, which I'll have to call her about. But I didn't even know that we had #1 and #2 anymore. We scored a lot of goals back then. And maybe that was part of the chemistry between the two of us. It didn't feel like a rival, but I think there was definitely something there that she scored from outside. She always scored from the top of the circle. I don't know how many field hockey fans there are out here. She scored from the top of the circle on corners, and I used to score standing on top of the goalie's pads. So I used to heckle goalies a lot. I loved that part of the game, and the coaches in the back laughing. We could have used a little heckling of their goalie yesterday. They had a good goalie on the other team. So anyway, I think that's really what kind of stands out.
Is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Well, I'd like to thank my husband, who's in the audience. We met in Oneonta. He's a 1985 graduate and a 4-year member of the wrestling team. He has a lot of stories to share about wrestling and what that was like coming to school here. We met in the training room I worked as a trainer in the Chase building. What's now considered the wrestling training room was actually our training room. And we taped a lot of ankles, gave out a lot of ice bags, and I was the student teacher in a class that Greg was taking, and I taught him how to tape a thumb, and he still tells the story that I taught him how to do it backwards because I was so nervous when I met him. So.
Well, congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Becky, Kern.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next gentleman did not graduate from Oneonta, but he is Oneonta. Okay, he worked here for over 30 years, 31 years. He came here in 1984, and he worked in different parts of administration, but he finished his tenure here as the Vice President for Student Development, which oversaw our athletics. And when you look around this campus at some of the things that we now have in athletics, this gentleman is why we have those things in athletics. So it's gonna be great to be able to talk to him and get his perspective from an administrator, how important and what the value is, because he saw the value. He saw the value. And because of that, we have these things and stuff for the future. So I certainly gives me great pleasure to welcome to the Hall of Fame, Dr. Steve Perry. Well, I know it hasn't been too long that you've been retired from us, but certainly we welcome you back to our campus. And I think I'd really like to start your conversation as an administrator and someone who had to be in meetings, talking about some of the things that we would like to do, just not in athletics, but on campus, kind of a bird's eye view of some of the things that you're most proud of and working on those projects.
Well, thanks, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be back. I haven't been back for a couple of years, and my wife and I have moved to Ohio now, so to be with family. I think back about the years that I was here, 31 years. The last 16 as a vice president, which were probably the most impactful for me. We were at a point in the institution where our enrollment had dipped to about 4,800, and retention was sliding backwards, and our profile was slipping, and the place was pretty run down. I remember when I came in 1984, I told my wife, it looks like a pretty good career opportunity, but the place is a little run down, and you only have to go outside and take one look to see what it looks like today. So I was really honored to be part of a group of people that worked to turn the place around. We grew enrollment back to over 6,000. We raised the profile. We stopped the bleeding of students through attrition. The buildings and grounds started to come together. Academic programs were developing. There's a story there that's really transformative as an institution. And one of the things that's really important about that, to me, is that it made every student's degree a stronger degree. And every alumni ended up with a stronger degree. So everything that we continue to do, and we continue to do today, even as students, as alumni, as faculty and staff, to make the institution stronger, increases the value of every student's degree. And I hope students remember that, because when you go out there and say, I'm from Oneonta, I hope you do that with pride, because this really is a great place, and hopefully you'll get a great education, and you'll continue to make the institution stronger. So that's one of the things that I'm most proud of.
Now, in athletics, we have our mantra is winning with character, which is something that came out of your philosophy of not just really the students on this campus. Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, it relates to the athletic part of it, but you oversaw the entire student body essentially, mm-hmm. where you wanted people to be doing the right thing, graduating and doing things to make them good citizens. Mm-hmm. So you can talk a little bit about that philosophy?
Well, it really started from my experience in career development. That's how I came to Oneonta as the director of career development. And I remember the first time that Tracy invited me to come over for the opening day of athletics, and for the fall sports, student athletes arrived early, had a first workout, had a dinner together, and came into the Dewar Arena here. And she said, "You want to say a few words?" And I thought about that. I hadn't prepared anything, and I thought to myself, well, what's really important is for student athletes is not that you just think of this experience as an athletic experience, but from a career point of view, you think about winning in academics to become the best you can be in your academic life, winning personally and socially, and developing in ways that will help and carry you into the future. And then in athletics, certainly putting your all in and putting some wins on the record books is a good thing. But from my point of view, doing that with character and building the whole person was the important part of that. So that's sort of the message I tried to deliver that first time, and we refined that over time to some different words, but we were looking for a way to sort of frame that in as short a way as possible, and it came out winning with character. And I think, for me, I grew up in a family that, I was taught to respect people, not to be a bully, to be honest, not to lie, to treat everybody with respect. And I think that's the kind of model we need to be for all of our students, including student athletes. And I think for my career, that's what I tried to do. I hope that I did that. Let the record book stand for whatever it is.
The message certainly resonates today, even in this day and age, that those are the characteristics that we want our young people to aspire to. I mean, being solid in character and integrity and trustworthy, and certainly we know that under your leadership, I think that those are the things that we are seeing. We just see them all the time. I mean, you look out in this crowd, and you could every one of our student athletes aspires, and I think it's that philosophy that we've been able to pass down to them, which we certainly are more than grateful forever for that. But is there anybody in particular that you'd like to thank from your time here on campus? Or?
Well, it was a lot of years, and I'm grateful to a lot of people, but my wife sitting down front has been my anchor through my career. We'll have been married 40 years next March. So thanks to her. Fran Daly, for those of you who can remember back that far, gave me the opportunity to come to Oneonta in 1984, and certainly appreciate all the support he gave me early on. Alan Donovan and then Nancy Klanuski gave me the opportunity to be vice president for 16 years and to be part of what I consider to be an incredible transformation of the institution. Very proud to be part of that. Ed Griesmer, who preceded me, was a great influence. I had a great team of people in the division from the very top, my senior staff, great people, Roger Sullivan and Gene Miller and Bart Ingersoll, the managers, directors. I had 16 different departments report to me, and I had to have good people there, and I did, and I was very appreciative. And they had great staffs up and down the line. So there were a lot of people that I appreciate. In terms of athletics, I had the good sense and the good fortune to hire Tracy Ranieri as the athletic director. There is nobody more passionate about athletics and what happens here than her. But another person kind of gets left out of the equation, and I want to make mention of him, and that's Bart Ingersoll, and he's sitting down here in the second row. When President Donovan came to me and he said, "Steve, I want you to take over athletics," and I thought, that sounds like a lot of work. It's a big division or a big department. Every team is like a department in itself. And I looked around the table of my senior staff, and I said, "Bart, will you take on athletics as a kind of a buffer between me and all of the details and the heavy lifting that needed to be done?" And he stepped in and did that. And he doesn't get enough credit for that. And I know he and Tracy worked hard to get things going, and I provided all the support that I could. But in terms of the changes that occurred after athletics came to student development, I really would give a lot of credit to Tracy and to Bart Ingersoll. So thank you.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next inductee is a national champion. And in 2003, for those of you who have looked at the side of the outside wall out here, and it says National Champions 2003 Women's Soccer. Well, our next inductee was the captain of that team, and not only was she the captain, she scored the game-winning goal in overtime. So pretty exciting stuff. And if for the people that were, let's reminisce a little bit, the most exciting part of that game was like the last minute and a half. We were behind 1-0 to the University of Chicago. And I'm in the press box, and the NCAA is in there, and they're starting to put together the post-game script for Chicago. They won the game. Here you go. Most valuable players, the whole 9 yards. And the game, it's never over. It is never over until that final whistle sounds. And there was a foul called out on the field, and Rose Valland said, just started waving everybody towards the goal. Just go towards the goal. And she put that ball down, kicked it towards the goal, and Brooke Davis, another outstanding player for us, scored the tying goal. 30 seconds left. Now it's funny because if you're in the press box with me, now they're scrambling. All the NCAA people are like, oh my God, we got to change the script now. What's going to happen? So there was a pretty exciting moment. And then 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes into the first overtime period, Sanada comes down the right flank, and she just kind of sends a ball in. And I don't even know if she thought it was going in. I mean, it didn't look like it was going. It looked like it was just a crossing pass for somebody to kind of come in and knock it in. And it finds the corner of the goal. And if you saw the reaction from the University of Chicago as they stood in front of that goal, all you saw was, and all you saw from us was, and it was just an incredible, incredible experience to have on this campus. The last national championship in soccer that has ever been on a college campus. So we hold the record now for that too. So Oneonta is there. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to our Athletic Hall of Fame, Sanada Bailey. Well, was that a good enough intro? I don't know if I did it justice.
You took some pressure off.
Okay.
For a second.
Certainly, congratulations and welcome back to the campus. And I mean, it was an exciting game. It was an exciting time. Can you just, give us a little perspective from your end of being involved in that game and on that team?
How long do I have? No, I'm not going to take forever. I promised the girls there because I remember sitting there. My perspective, I've talked a lot about Tracy, but she was the first person that believed in me before I could even believe in myself. So as a captain, I tried to bring that to our team. So even though we were down, and it wasn't the first time we've been down, so just remember that's okay. If you're ever down, you just kind of have to believe, as cheesy as that might sound, that you can pull off almost the impossible. And Dr. Perry just said, after that I believed in miracles. And the thing is, there were little miracles that happened all throughout that season that led us to where we were. Mm-hmm. So I guess, if I could sum it up, just to be on that team was a huge blessing. It brought me things that I never thought I could have and gave me faith that everything is possible, even when odds are against you. Mm-hmm. And that when you have the right people around you, amazing things can happen.
So it really talks about, like some personal growth and the people that influenced you. And can you really, talk about, because we're talking about value and what Oneonta means. And again, it's not about the X's and O's. It's really the people that influence you to create that value. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Oneonta to me means pretty much everything. But first would be family. Dave and Tracy were these incredible role models that made me think I could have that. And now I have a beautiful husband and 2 beautiful children and an extended family that I never thought I could have. Excuse me. And it also made me think, good, I'm glad I'm not the only one crying. It made me think that my team was so much more than that. And there's going to be animosity, and there's going to be times you don't get along. But think of yourselves as sisters or brothers, and like, you're going to fight sometimes. It happens. And you just push each other. And like, that's the thing. Nothing comes from comfort. You know, I was never the greatest player. I was never the smartest student. Some of my players are here. I'm sorry I said that, okay? But it's true. And I think, you know, if you want something bad enough, you have to push yourself to uncomfortable measures and to embrace that uncomfortableness, knowing that something good's going to come out of it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's very,
okay.
That's outstanding. Awesome stuff. So now you're a teacher and a coach yourself, and you have your own kind of personal fitness business going on. I mean, so it looks like for you, that transformation has really carried you right into what you're doing now. Could you?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I'm going to go Oneonta family, and the X word is excellence. Like, not like I fit that completely, but it makes me at least strive for it. So I remember my first interview, and they say, you know, teachers in general never land their first interview. Well, I did. And we talked about the national championship, and the big thing that I remember talking to my administrator about was that our team was a well-oiled machine, and in order to become that machine, everyone needs to do their part, and that's how your ship sails. So I always wanted to be that team member and bring that to the ship, if you will, and I think that goes with, you know, my marriage. You know, we have to bring the best part of ourselves to it, even when you really don't want to, when you're tired and you're exhausted, when in your job, your career, teaching, you know, there's going to be trials and errors, and even in your own personal business, like, it's nice to say that we all have to work together in order to make this successful.
And certainly I know that when you put your personal reflection together, you talked a lot about your teammates. You know, maybe you could talk a little bit about the importance of having good teammates, like you said, that might, you know, push you when the times are maybe tough.
It's crazy because as I grew up, because I thought when I was sitting in that seat I was grown up. Ladies, don't worry, you are, but, you know, it's coming. That the more personal development I've done, I've learned that those women that were around me, the people that were around me, really made me who I am. And I'm very thankful for that. So if you could, like, just think to yourself, who are the top 5 people in your life right now? That is going to bring you where you need to be. And if you don't like those 5 people, you need to kind of rearrange it. I was blessed. I was given Trisha, who's here. I was given Kelly Stevens, who's up on the wall, and Rose, and Christina Gaspar. I mean, like, I've been given so many wonderful sisters, and that a mother, Tracy, and Dave Ranieri, who was a father to me, who brought me to where I am today. So just make sure that, you know, regardless of who's in your life right now, that you get the choice to pick who you surround yourself with, and that they can either lift you up or pull you down. And if I were you, just seriously consider who you're surrounding yourselves with.
Is there anybody else that you would like to thank at this time?
Oh, who didn't I thank? This might sound kind of crazy, but if you look around, I want to thank everyone that's here today, because I remember being in that seat, and I know it's not easy sitting the whole time, but I also know that you are, these ladies over here are continuing the legacy. Some of my players that I'm coaching right now, you are continuing this legacy in your own way, and that every professor, some who really understood it, the little notes that they left to inspire and motivate and push us. There's too many. Our trainers, Andy and Tom Benoit, who got me through so much and just told me to stay in the ice bath even though I didn't really want to. Dave and Tracy, you, Dr. Perry, Mr. Ingersoll, making pancakes, game of, just the extended family that came together. Most importantly, my husband, because any athlete knows that, you know, there's a lot of emotions that go on when you play, so to come back to like a normal human being mentality is really hard before and after a game, and, well, I guess being a mother, you're kind of crazy too. Just thank you for your patience and loving me and believing in me, my boys for being here, my mother-in-law and father-in-law who have been like parents to me, and I think that's good for now.
Okay. Congratulations. Truly inspirational, truly, truly, truly. Our next gentleman is one of the most accomplished coaches in America, in the United States. I mean, he's coached at every level. The U.S. men's national team, under 20 team. He's coached at every college level. He's coached in the professional ranks at MLS. And everywhere he's been successful. And he was talking earlier in the brunch about how Oneonta really was where it started to go for him. He was a member of our 1972 men's soccer team that is enshrined in our Hall of Fame. They played in a national championship game in 1972. I mean, just an accomplished man, an accomplished role model and coach at every level. And certainly, please help me welcome Mr. Ralph Perez to our Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Well, I first want to say I'm honored with this to be bestowed upon me. When Tracy called me back in over the summer months, I was shocked because, to be very honest with, especially these people to the left and right that are student athletes, I was a starter, but I wasn't. I had 5 teammates that are on that wall, and my best friend and roommate was voted the best player in the United States, Division I or II, whatever. It's the equivalence of the Heisman Award, Farouk. And I was blessed to play with outstanding players and great coaches that my time here. And I think the one message that I would really like to send real early to our student athletes is to embrace and enjoy every day that you're here. 4 years go pretty quick. I'm sitting back there and I'm trying to even come to the number of when I graduated from here 44 years ago, and it's like a blur. And I just want you to know that this is a very special place that you're at, and enjoy every day, and really take it for what it's really what you're here for as a student and as an athlete.
So now you've been able to transfer your Oneonta experience, you know, playing on that 1972 team. You mentioned during the brunch that when you came here, the team maybe wasn't, you know, what we would think of now with our history and our tradition. So maybe, you know, talk a little bit about the role that you played in transforming that attitude.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we were really blessed with is that we had tremendous fan support, a fan base that came to the games that really motivated you and made you want to excel. And the atmosphere here between campus life, the downtown life, was phenomenal, and the faculty and staff really supported athletics as well. I mean, a bad crowd was 1,500 people, and we knew that we had something very special in Oneonta versus the rest of the world, and it really allowed us to play and enjoy playing for our fans.
That 1972 year, I know you said it's kind of a blur, but I know there were some incredible games that you played, especially in the NCAA tournament, you know, namely one against the school on the other hill there, Harwick. Can you just maybe talk about that team and kind of that specialness of that whole event?
Yeah, I just think that one of the things that occurred was that we were trying to get good. In my freshman year, we were 4-7. My sophomore year, we went from a great recruiting class to 9-2. In our junior year, we went to 11-0, and we didn't get an NC2A bid, which was a little astonishing. I remember when Coach told us that. But it surely motivated us for that 72 season. And we had like a 20-plus game winning streak, and we lost to that other school that likes to take our nickname, the Red Dragons, Cortland. And on that bus ride back, we all felt maybe we lost our chance to go to the playoffs because one loss and we thought it was over. And fortunately for us, we finished out the season well. We got into the NCAA tournament and had to go down and play Adelphi, and that was the first year that they had Division II soccer. And we went down there and played to a 0-0 draw. And then we played overtime, 15 minutes, another 15 minutes, another 15 minutes, another 15 minutes. We played 60 minutes. I was never so exhausted in my life playing 150 minutes. But in those days, the decision wasn't penalty kicks, it was corner kicks. And we were tied on corners, so no one knew what was to happen. So to make a long story short, we went back and replayed the game. A couple days later, and we beat them 6-0. So we got it right the second time around.
That was because you had to go back. That's why you did that.
Well, I think Coach had some good motivation as well. I think so. I think that clearly for me, it was a special win. It really motivated us, and we knew by then, because Hartwick had won, that we would play them. And you know, geographically, we're on different hills. We're on the right hill, they're on the wrong one. But clearly, the game was special, but what happened was we had 24 inches of snow, and we couldn't play the game on the given time frame, so they moved it to Monday when the students got back. And believe it or not, both administrations came together and worked on clearing the field. So we played the game at Damaski Field. The snow was completely gone, it was tarped, and students came back from both schools. The mayor called it Soccer Day. Banks, schools closed at noon, and we had over 8,000 at the game downtown, and it was something to behold, because I think we probably played maybe our best game of the year. We won 3-0, and it was phenomenal, because I think Hartwick had been to the Final Four 2 years ago. They had been the real soccer powerhouse in New York. And clearly for me, it was a great win for all of us. And going last night to the affair that we had at the Union, that was just open. And you have to remember that in that time frame, drinking age was 18. So the school really had a lot of fun that night celebrating that win. And it was a great time, and it was a great opportunity. And then we played the next round here against Springfield and won again 3-0. And then we went to the semifinals and played out in St. Louis against a school from California, Chico State, and we won 6-0. So, I mean, we were really on a great roll going into the final. We played Southern Illinois on their field, and it was about 10 degrees, rock solid, frozen, the field. I was playing with sneakers like this gentleman in the front row. I played in sneakers in that game because shoes didn't really work, boots. And we lost a heartbreaker, 1-0, hitting the crossbar, and goalkeeper playing very well for them. Didn't have the story to tell about winning a national title as a young lady before me, but clearly we got there, and I think we made the school and the university proud of getting to an NCAA final. And trust me, doing this college coaching for over 30 years, I'm still chasing that dream, trying to get my team to an NCAA final, so it's not an easy achievement.
So some of the things that you've been able to, establish here at Oneonta, you said have really, carried through your coaching life. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Clearly, I've been blessed to play for great coaches, be it high school and college, and a few of them are in the audience, and I'd be remiss not to thank them. First of all, the head coach, Mr. Garth Stam, is here in the audience, and his trusty assistant, Mr. Lynch, but known as Corky Lynch. What a great staff they were. They worked well together. As good as they were and as different as they are in size, they were magical for the team. They really related well to the boys on the team and did a fantastic job. I'd be remiss that Mr. Don Flewelling was the one guy that was really got me really turned on to about Oneonta, because I also thought I was a pretty good basketball player, and I played, and he recruited me as well. And he was the one college coach that said you could play both for us. Some schools were saying you had to pick and choose. He was the one that said it would be all right to come, and and Mr. Burr, who's way in the back there with admissions, was very instrumental as well. I'd be remiss not to mention Dr. Power, who's in charge of the Equal Opportunity Program, that allowed me to have the opportunity to come here as well. And then Mr. Bailey over there, who took care of injuries of all the players, and we surely had a few. And what he had to work with in those days and what you have today is night and day. And what sports medicine has grown to be is phenomenal. I look at the situation here that the student athletes have, being in coaching. I think you have Division I facilities. I think you have an administration that's very supportive of athletics. And I'm happy to see that they're not going to just rest on those laurels. They're going to continue to strive for excellence.
Well, we certainly want to thank you and congratulate you once again for your accomplishments.
Thank you very much.
Our next inductee was a member of our very successful men's basketball teams during the mid-'70s. One of those teams played for a national championship in 1977, and he was a big part of that leading up to that. I mean, he was, you know, every team needs a hard-working guy that's going to do the dirty work, that gets rebounds and plays defense and really mixes it up to motivate the rest of the team. And I certainly know that based on some of his stories that he's told me, you know, email-wise, exchanging some stories, he certainly, Coach Llewellyn motivated you, I would say. So to do his best. So certainly another one of our top players from that time played in the SUNY CUNY All-Star game back when they used to play the SUNYs versus the CUNYs in some kind of an all-star situation. I wish they would bring that back because it probably would be a pretty outstanding game, actually, in all sports. But please help me welcome Mr. Steve Wolcott. Well, congratulations and welcome back.
Thank you very, very much.
Now, just reading through the information that we've, you know, that I've accumulated on yourself, I really would like to start with your career, because I don't know, he was a meteorology major, and he spent his entire professional life working in meteorology for the federal government, and I just want to be able to just talk about that for anybody out there who's thinking of a career in meteorology and what that meant, your Oneonta education meant to you. So if you could please tell us about that.
Yeah, well, one thing, in our program, we were very educationally oriented, which was always good. Our coach supported us, and I'm sure, and what I've heard, your coaches support you too. One little piece of advice that I wish I had done a little bit differently, thinking back, the curriculum seems to be flexible enough at Oneonta. If you can dual major, do it, because you never know where you're going to wind up. I started off educationally as a meteorologist, and then I combined a lot of that with hydrology. I became a special needs school bus driver after I retired, and I'm now a handyman. So you never know what you're gonna do. You're gonna need math. You're gonna need all different types of things. If you've got the possibility to do a dual major, do it.
And so can you talk about, I mean, meteorology, of course, is such a broad area, and you know, when people think of meteorology, they think of all these people that are tracking hurricanes and all these. But can you just talk a little bit about some of the areas that you had, got to work in?
Well, mostly I was in the, anyone from Long Island or Eastern New York. I was actually a hydrologist with the federal government. So believe it or not, I've had something to do with the water that you've drank. Hopefully it came out clean. One of the things, I worked for the United States Geological Survey, and if you've ever heard of the flash flood watches or warnings, that was one of the primary tasks that we had, but we also did water quality type studying. You have to be, in when I say the dual majors, you have to be able to do communication, you have to be able to write, you have to be able to communicate in terms of like congressional visits and that sort of thing. So that's why I'm emphasizing that dual thing. But quietly behind the scenes, we were always involved in anything to do with water, which is obviously related to meteorology. Like right now, I guess it never gets out of your blood. I've already just checked before I got here the Lumberton River on North Carolina to see if it's okay to pass through on I-95 on my way home. So it just never leaves you.
So, transition a little bit into your experience as a student athlete here. You were a 4-year starter for us, played on some very successful teams, a lot of great teammates. We've inducted quite a few of them into our Hall of Fame. Talk about that experience within the basketball.
Well, I was a 4-year starter, but Don Fleming really felt sorry for me my freshman year and gave me a chance. So, that's a little overblown. I came from a high school basketball program in which we were 1-17. So, and I was kind of the star player, and I said, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm more than willing to be a blue-collar player from here to Timbuktu. I'll do whatever it takes to get there, and that's kind of how I always ran my career, I guess you could say. And I could run the shuffle-cut offense without shooting, so I was a hot prospect in that sense.
So that kind of hard work and commitment, rubbed off on the other guys. Coach Llewellyn, certainly we know that he, would a taskmaster, so to speak, to make sure that you guys were.
Oh yeah,
doing the right things.
none of us liked Don. It was a given. No, in terms of, I think we all rubbed off on our own. For instance, my teammate Jackie Dalton right there. I wasn't necessarily the leader for that. I think we all had the same goal, and everything gelled, and Don kept all the cats herded.
And any one or two maybe particular games that might stand out for you that maybe you could give us a...
Of course, yeah. Unlike all the championship games, we were in Utica College. We were up by 3 points, okay? And 6 seconds left to go in the game, and Utica has the ball. All I have to do is just dribble down the court, all right, put the ball up. When they get 2, we run the clock out, we win. Well, we were drilled over and over and over to take offensive charges. So of course, I go out, I take the offensive charge, the guy scores the basket, all right, so now we're only up by 1, but I got fouled, okay, no problem. So I go down to shoot 1-on-1, I missed the first 1-on-1, the ball goes long, the other guy from Utica College launched a 35-foot jump shot, and we lost the game. So, you recall, Don, don't you? That was a memorable game. Yeah. So that's why I'm surprised I'm actually here for something like that.
We've been told other stories, though. Don has told us other stories about all your greatness. So.
Well, those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. And certainly we know, again, the teams that you played on were pretty special, and you did get a chance to work with some of those guys again that next year. And I would think that you were a big part of that.
Well, it was a group. Don Fleming molded us and guided us in that direction. And we bought into the program, and it stayed for a long time. And it's funny, too, because as teammates, I know where all my teammates are to this date. This is 40-some-odd years later. We know what they're doing, how they're doing, and I guess, you talk about a family, I don't know if we're a close family, but we all know where we all are at the same time. So that's pretty an amazing thing, I think.
That it is, after that amount of time. Anyone that you would like to thank?
Well, Doc Bailey for all his tape, because there was no such thing as MRIs at that time. And George Werthmeiler, if it hadn't been for George introducing me to, I don't know if Doc Holloway's here right now, but at any rate, the two of them introduced me on my initial recruiting trip back in 1971, and they sold me on the place. And I'm not here if Don Fleming's not here. It's just that simple.
Well,
and my wife, I got to look there. I recovered quickly, Susan.
Well, we certainly want to congratulate you and thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Well, our final inductee, member actually of the same class as Becky Kern, 1987. Men's lacrosse started here as really an official varsity sport in 1980. And so during those early years when the program was trying to find players to grow the program, to start traditions and history, just like our other programs that had started, previous years before that, this guy right here was like he's like the greatest player from that early years, even though I know he's not, but he is definitely one of the greatest players from that era, and I know he played with a lot of great teammates that we're going to hear about as well. But he once scored, men's lacrosse players, he once scored 13 goals in one game, which is amazing when you think about it. And at this time, someone finally tied it in Division III, but that record stood for almost 30 years. So it's just amazing to think that he scored 13 goals in one game, and he's an all-conference player. He was team captain, certainly a special time during the 80s, again, trying to grow a program and leading it to where it is now. So I certainly help me welcome Mr. Ed Ryder. Sit down and do this without Corky Lynch right beside us. Well, welcome back. And
good to be back. Ooh, hey-oh. Hot mic.
I mean, certainly a funny story, because it has to do with this gentleman right here, Mr. Corky Lynch. I get an email one day out of the blue. I mean, I have never met Ed Ryder in my life. And he starts asking me questions about, hey, do you have any, we're having a get-together, guys from the 80s. Do you have any pictures of Corky Lynch that you could send me? So I'm like, whoa, okay, I got to go back and look. I mean, obviously we had pictures from when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, but I was just trying to find some other ones that I could send to Ed. Well, unbeknownst to Ed, because Tracy Ranieri is the one who makes the phone calls for the Hall of Fame inductees, I already knew he was in the Hall of Fame.
You dirty rat.
So it was just strange that the connection between, here's a random email, right, and then now we get to honor him as a Hall of Famer. So for me, that's going to be my story of Ed Ryder. So
drive safe, everybody.
Yeah. Ed, why don't you, again, during that early days of men's lacrosse, and in that mid-'80s, I know you talked about a bunch of the players, your teammates on those teams. Can you just talk about that experience and trying to help a program grow?
Well, obviously the well is running dry for me to be up here. I guess we're out of great athletes. Because you're looking at the most undeserving member of this Hall of Fame, without a doubt. But I wear proudly the mantle that I represent an era that has almost been forgotten. I was telling Tracy yesterday, we really see ourselves as the DNA for what would become this program. It was still very much kind of a club feel, kind of a team, and I think we caught magic in a bottle in the graduating classes of 86, 87, 88, and 89 for that matter, of guys who wanted to go on to become coaches. Maybe we knew it, maybe we didn't know it, and now we have, I think we're over 500 college wins as coaches, an equally high number of high school and like youth and travel team wins. One of our number is a 3-time National Coach of the Year, national champion, and at the time we were just kids. And as I mentioned to you today, we would give, we'd be frustrated. Come on, Corky, tell us what to do. Give us more, tell us what. And we look back as adults, what he did is he gave us space to become coaches. And we didn't know that then, but now we look back with a little bit of experience and maturity and like, holy moly, look what this guy provided for us. He was a gardener who created this garden for us to then become who we are now. And I'll never be able to thank him for that.
And so you've coached some various sports. I mean, why don't you tell us the story how you get into coaching, because now you're a teacher and a coach yourself.
Yeah, I'm on the back nine, as they say. I have to admit, I was a bit of a brass ring guy, and that would be my advice to the student athletes. Slow down. Don't be in a rush to get to that next level. Enjoy where you are. Be moving forward, but don't be in a hurry to get there because you're at a prime time in your life. So I was going to be, a college basketball coach or a college lacrosse coach. Thanks to Don Flewelling, I was able to get into basketball, and it was just a matter of what my first break would be. And it came in basketball, and before you know it, that's the direction that I went. But all the while, I look back and like, you guys want to stand up? Would you mind, teammates? Arise if you don't mind. Come on, Rosie, come on. Mike, come on, boys. Now, is that the men's team over there? Lacrosse players, rise. Let me see where you are. You are family. We're brothers right there. And I hope we see the theme that went down this stage was this camaraderie, this chemistry. We had our alumni game yesterday, and we started 10 players over 50 years old. We went against the young guys. There's no catalog. When I was a college recruiter, I used to say things like, a school is not a bunch of buildings, it's the people. Partly because I was at schools that had bad facilities, so that's what you say, right? And the people here are what's going to make it great. And it's got to be organic and it's got to be natural, but there are things you can do to nurture that. My children don't know the names of any of my teammates because they're Danimal, they're Bobo, they're Looper, they're Tin Man, you know what I mean? Nobody had a name. Everybody had some sort of nickname. Sandwich is my savior. Sandwich is 10 times the player I was. And you know what he did? He fed me the ball. And so now I'm throwing the ball in the back of the net, and now my name is on your stat sheet, but he's the guy that made it possible. And that's the kind of stuff that is just, you can't buy that anywhere. The camaraderie, I mean, you heard it. Every person up here echoed it. And I'm sure the previous 19 ceremonies have been the same way. It's all about the team. The we is greater than the me part. It's forever.
And do you feel that is carried on to what you're doing now professionally,
100%.
mentoring?
100%. I started as a freshman basketball coach, senior year in college. Corky hooked me up with Flew to become a student assistant. Flew would run a practice from 4 to 6 p.m. with the varsity, and then from the freshman would come in. I would do the exact same practice plan, saying the same words, the same vocabulary he did. And before you know it, it's like children, right? In their development, they mimic, and then they develop their own style. And that's what he did. You mimic the people that you were around. I still do a crazy tag game that he used to do for us for fitness called the Blob, where you tag somebody, grab somebody. It was a group tag game. My players at my high school in Queens, they know the Blob. Every sport I do, we do the Blob. And it started with him.
So now, some of those lessons that you've learned, obviously now you were on the cutting edge of some things as far as international travel. You were involved in a organization that now, teams get together and they travel internationally?
Yeah, well, now it's more of a for-profit industry, but I was in a nonprofit organization called People to People International, created by President Eisenhower in 1956, and the idea is creature of the Cold War, promote international friendship and goodwill through people-to-people exchanges. Yeah. I was the director of the sports program, so we would send teams. Don Flewelling, for example, assembled a team of softball players from Oneonta, Binghamton, and Cortland. We put a red, white, and blue uniform on them, called them Team America, and they went to Australia. And they have these life-changing trips that are just amazing. 2 friends here who are St. Rose alumni, but in town for a wedding. They, as players, went to Spain representing St. Rose, but also representing the United States. And those are life-changing moments. There's nothing that can impact you. There's no textbook. There's no video until you're on the ground and you meet the people and you're there where they are. It was, and to travel the world for over 10 years on someone else's dime, that was pretty good too.
Is there anybody that you would like to thank?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
No.
I didn't think so. I thought there'd be
obviously every teammate that came up for this. How many groups of 50-year-olds still go back to their alma mater and go out on that beautiful field? The future players, I mean, you're our future brothers. We look forward to having you on our side. But Corky, for Pete's sakes, Flew, I mean, oh my word. But I'd be remiss if I don't especially acknowledge I can't even know, this is the crying part, right? My wife. Oneonta gave me a lot of things, but nothing more important than a beautiful woman from Astoria, Queens, that understood sports, that understood me, and didn't kick me out. So that was pretty good, right? So, love you, honey.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
And welcome. If we could please have one more round of applause for this outstanding group of individuals. Amazing, amazing people. Please rise. Amazing people. Yes. Congratulations. At this time, that does conclude our ceremony, but we would like you to stay at your seats while we recess our Hall of Famers out to the atrium where we will unveil their plaques. So thank you again for coming. And also, after the unveiling of the plaques, there is in the dance studio kind of an informal lunch that people can stay around before they hit the road just to grab a sandwich or something, and we'd love to spend more time with you. So thank you once again for coming.